selamat. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to talk about identity in global conflict. Okay, so we have watched videos on nationalism. I will recap a little bit about nationalism and how it affects global conflict. Then we will move on other causes of global conflict related to identity. So first, when we define about identity, we need to understand that identity is part of us. Identity is who we are, who you are, who I am, who he is, who she is, and so on and so forth. Identity is many things that combine together create me. And you can derive identity from anything, like perhaps your ethnicity, whether you are a Japanese, or maybe you are Hambonese, Moluccan, or you are Papuan. Even Japanese, you might like think differently when you are from Yogyakarta, or you are from Solo, or you are from Surabaya. That's part of who you are. Yeah. For the example, my friend from Surabaya or Eastern Java, they can say so easily that. Yeah, and then say, like, what's wrong with that? That's like pet names, like words that you say to your friends, and it's natural. While for me, because I was raised in Jogja, I cringe whenever I heard that word. It's like uncomfortable hearing that word, more so talking about that word, because that's who I am. Yeah, I was raised in Yogyakarta. I speak Japanese from Yogyakarta style. Yeah, I have manners and so on and so forth determined by my upbringing, while other people have their own identity. Yeah. Religion maybe also play important part for some people, maybe not playing important part at all from other people. Yeah. So identity again determines who you are, what you believe in, what kind of attitude you are showing, yeah, and what your aspiration is. Yeah. And identity group people together. Yeah. Group people together. When we are facing with many different people, we tend to get close to those who share similar identity with us. Yeah. So I'm a man, for the example, and there are 100 other people, and there are like 40 other men. Then I'm going to be drawn to this man if I think my identity as a man is important. But maybe I'm not using my gender as my identity, but maybe perhaps my ethnicity. So I'm going to drawn to those who came from Yogyakarta as well. Or perhaps I'm using my religion as my identity. Thus, I'm trying to find Muslims among these 100 people, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And then identity change. Yeah. Identity change according to a person experience. So for the example, when you were in your childhood, you will identify yourself with your parents, your family. But now I think you will identify yourself with your friends. You are part of a particular group or gang or clique or whatever. You are not that much into your family again. You did not identify yourself as I'm the son of Mr. This, I'm the daughter of Mrs. That. But you might say that I'm part of Komasi, I'm part of this cool gang, I'm part of English Secret Club or something. But then when you enter the work life, yeah, and then you graduate from the university, and then you are accepted in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you will drop that identity perhaps, and then you will adopt new identity as the member of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs diplomat corps. you will be proud of that identity, and that will define who you are. Like that, yeah. Maybe this will happen to you, identity will change. And then you might marry someone, and then you will adopt identity as husband or wife, and then parents of something else. Yeah, this develops. So that's also the same with identity in advocacy. Yeah? Identity in advocacy develops change as well, according to the experience of the society. Okay. Now, in politics and international relations, identity plays important part since identity define national group. Yeah. Or in Indonesia, nation is bangsa. A nation, a bangsa is a group of people residing in a particular geographical area which share similar identity. Yeah. This is important, yeah, because there are many people, they live in similar area, but they don't share identity. That's not a nation or a function. This shared identity can be from perspective, their historical perspective, their cultural heritage, their religion tradition, and so on and so forth. What makes nation important is that they have nationalism aspiration. Nationalism is an aspiration, political aspiration for a nation to establish and control a state, a political group for their own that they can control. Yeah. Now, nationalism, again, is a political aspiration of a group of people with shared identity for them to be able to control a political unit without any interference from other outside parties. They have the right to determine their own future. Okay, so nationalism is a political movement, and it is something common in our international relation environment. Nationalism starts from the French Revolution, and it's gaining momentum to spread out during the world wars. Yeah, so before the First World War, the nationalist movement is not that great, but the First World War and the Second World War create the momentums for the nationalist movement to spread out all over the world. Nowadays, in our international environment, we have nationalism as the common value. The political units engaging in international relations, usually a political unit controlled by a nation. Now, ideally, nationalism perceives that ideally one nation control one state belongs to one nation. However, things in our world is not ideal. So we have colonialism. One nation occupy another nation and their state. Yeah. Or we have a state with many nationalities. For example, the UK. Yeah. The United Kingdom is a political unit, a state with 4 different nationalities. We have English, Scottish, Irish, and Welsh. Yeah. These nationalities have their own government, their own parliament, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So we have also a nation which then divided into many states. For the example, the Kurds. Yeah. The Kurds is a nation, a group of people who share identity, and then they seek to establish a Kurdish nation, a Kurdish state. However, at present, they live in 4 different states. Some parts of the Kurdish people live within Turkey, Another part live within Iraq, another part live within Syria, and another part live within Iran. This creates problems. And then we have a nation without state, such as the Palestinians. Okay. Now, in some place, a given set of groups can exist peacefully, yet in another they cannot. Yeah. Why is it? Yeah. We can see, for the example, yeah, on the left we have the map of ethnicity in Africa, and then this map show that there are lots of ethnicity within a particular territory of a state. For the example, we can look, yeah, when I zoom in like this, each color is a different ethnicity, different traditional identity. And each color have their own traditional border. However, when the colonial government went out from Africa, they did not establish an African political unit according to the traditional ethnic borders. Instead, they divided according to their whims, yeah? And then they put either several identity together in a group, or even they like a split, yeah, split one identity into several territory of the several states. Now we can see this cause conflict in Africa. You can see that there are lots of ethnic conflict based on identity, simply because the political unit is not compatible with the nation in Africa. Yeah. The rather the place is, the more intense conflict arise. However, you can see there are also places without conflict, yeah, like South Africa, for example. Why is there no conflict in South Africa? Well, because in some area, yeah, conflict can rise from the number of identities within. For the example, we have homogeneous states, a state with one dominant identity, yeah, and then they have similar parts. And then we have also heterogeneous state, a state with lots of different identities within. Usually, a homogeneous state will have more stable political units. If there are conflict within the political unit, it's not because of the identity, but because of the political aspiration, such as in Myanmar. Between the military regime and the pro-democratic forces in Myanmar, there is no differences in identity. They speak the similar language, they have similar religion, they share similar ethnicity, and so on and so forth, but they have different aspirations. However, we also have the conflict between the Myanmar government and the Rohingya people. That is an identity conflict because they have different language, they have different ethnicity, they have different religion, they have different historical background, and so on and so forth. And the government of Myanmar actively seeks to kick the Rohingya people out. Yeah, they perceive the Rohingya people as squatters, intruders. And why is that? Because they have different identities. Okay. So in some heterogeneous states, yeah, we have people that live without conflict or minimal conflict. But in some other heterogeneous states, we have people that in conflict with one another because of their different identities. Why is that? Because we have what we call as social cleavage. Social cleavage is a condition that divides the people, the society, into several different groups. And these groups can be based on geographical position, like central versus periphery. We have people who live in Jakarta, and we have people who live in South Kalimantan. And then whenever there is a flood in Jakarta, it becomes national issues. Everyone talking about that. Every single newspaper, every single television, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, everyone talks about that, even those who are not living in Jakarta. But when flood happened in South Kalimantan, what happened? Well, it might just occupy a little bit a corner in national news. It might be like take 5 minutes in 24-hour television. No, no one tweet about that. No one say hashtag put down the governor or something. Yeah, nobody talk about that. That's not becoming national issue simply because South Kalimantan is not the center of it. So people who live in center and people who live in periphery have different aspirations. Yeah. And that might create conflict such as between the Aceh movement, pre-Aceh movement, and then the central government in Jakarta, which thankfully can be resolved peacefully. And then we have social class. One group, rich group, one group, poor group, they will have different aspirations. We have religion, we have language, ethnicity, and so on and so forth as part of identifier which divides society into several groups. Yeah. Then we have what we call as overlapping cleavage, when membership of one group equal to membership of another group. Yeah. So when the society is divided into 4 groups, for example, ethnicity, richness, and then geographical position, and for example, political affiliation, yeah, member from the ethnic group is the same member of the richness group, same member of geographical supporter group. So Japanese are rich, live in Java, and support political party A, while Papuans are poor, live in Papua, far from the center of the government, and they are voting for political party C, for example. So there is no intermingling between these two different groups. Yeah. While we have what we call as cross-cutting cleavage, whenever these different groups share membership with one another. Okay, so this is an example of overlapping cleavage. Yeah, in Malaysia, we have ethnic groups, the Chinese and the Malay, and we have economic groups, rich and poor. Then overlap the ethnicity and the economic group into rich Chinese and poor Malay, for the example. This happened in 1960s. So, if you are part of an ethnic group, then you also member of the economic group. So people from like a Chinese person is also a rich person. He will hang out with another Chinese and rich person, and he has no reason to need to interact intensely with a poor Malay. Yeah. We have the second condition, the cross-cutting cleavage. Yeah. The example at the UK nowadays, we have economic group, rich and poor. And we also have religious groups, Catholics and Protestants. Then we have cross-cutting development. So we have rich Catholics and also rich Protestants, poor Catholics and also poor Protestants. So when the Catholics gather in their church, there will be poor and there will be rich members. And then when the rich member gather in their extravagant party or something, we will also have Catholics there and Protestant there. So membership is quite fluid. One member of a group might meet another person in other groups. Like Catholics might meet Protestant and become friends when they share similar work. They share similar economic status. Yeah. Poor person might meet with rich person when they share similar church. This does not happen with overlap cleavage. Yeah. So the presence of overlap cleavage will segregate, will separate the society into very different groups. Yeah. The group is very rigid. You cannot meet or interact with others. While cross-cutting cleavage will provide the member of the society several activities or places where they can meet people from other groups. So usually conflict happens more easily on the overlapping cleavage because there is no such thing that can make the different groups intermingle, interact with one another. This is what happened during the global conflict. Yeah. Now we also have what we call as grievance and fear. Yeah. If this happens, then conflict might happen as well. The first is relative deprivation. It is like you think that you are entitled to something, and when that something is taken away from you, you feel hurt. For example, in England, people in England, the Englishmen, they were like thinking that staying and work in England is their right. So when immigrants came and worked there, they feel like their work is stolen by immigrants. That's it. That's relative deprivation because that is something that they perceive. What actually happened is like some Englishmen reluctant to work on low-paid jobs, manual jobs. They think like it's too risky, not on their station, or they work too hard for too few pounds. So whenever an Englishman refuses, an immigrant will come and take that place, that job. Then the Englishman will say, "Oh, he's taking away my job. We have to get rid of immigrants," and so on and so forth. Okay. And then we have security dilemma. Security dilemma is a condition where there are two groups or more, yeah, A and B for the example. And whenever A is doing something to secure themselves, this is considered a threat by B. And when B reacts to that threat, yeah, then A will perceive that as threat to A. And then they will react again, which will then be perceived as threat by B, and then B will react again, and so on and so forth. For example, we have this between South Korea and North Korea. Yeah? South Korea feel insecure because of North Korean threat. So they like build their weaponry. Then North Korea, seeing that South Korea built up their weaponry, is feeling threatened by South Korea. So North Korea also built up their weaponry. South Korea, seeing that now North Korea is building up their weaponry, thinking, why the North Koreans are building up their weaponry? That's because they want to attack us. So South Korea also building up their weaponry, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And then we have what we call a structural inequality. This happens when a government or a people of power establish a rule that provides convenience for a group of people and marginalize other groups. For example, only people with a certain ethnicity is allowed to sell their goods in this market, like that. Or only people of certain religion is allowed to become the member of the society. Or only people of certain ethnicity is allowed to become a governor or mayor in this land, for example. Yeah, this creates structural inequality. And this will create jealousy, and it might be the trigger of conflict. Okay. And then the last is failed state. Whenever a state is failed to perform its duty to establish order, then groups within that state might be in conflict with one another, and the conflict might erupt into violence. Okay, that's the theme that we are going to talk about on our fourth meeting. Yeah, please feel free to ask if you have any questions. And also, we have two groups that will present their work next week on nationalism, separatism, and then another two that will work on their discussion on identity and conflict. So for those groups, if you have any question on your assignment, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.